That's Johnny Marr and The Messenger. Johnny is here. How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah, it was good to see you.
Very well. Nice to see you.
Lovely to see you as always, Johnny. A title track of a record that we'll love him. We love him. Yeah.
We'll talk lots to talk with Johnny about, but before we do that, just get your change stuff in.
Yes.
Get your change suggestions in, following on from the Go Team, wasn't it, before?
It was Grip Like a Vice from the Go Team, last on the chain. Think of a tune that links into that, 64046 radcliffe.maconie@bbc.co.uk.
It's really interesting, this record. I mean, after all this time, a solo record.
Yeah.
I was interested. I was reading a few articles. I think an interview in Mojo, when you're talking about the Healers. In 2001, you said the Healers. But you admit now you didn't really know what you wanted to do or how to sing in front of a group. That's an interesting and revealing quote, I thought.
Yeah, well, it's actually more of a revealing quote than was intended because you know, do you know the truth of it? You give a journalist a little bit of vulnerability and they turn it into a bigger deal than it really was. Because I was just being honest, saying that it wasn't really like I didn't know what I was doing.
No.
What I was saying was I was feeling my way around it. And because a couple of my friends, one in particular, said, you should stop saying that about your early stuff because it's a really good record.
Yeah,
So I think he put 2 and 2 together and made 5. It wasn't like I was floundering around. See, I'm sounding annoyed now. But No, I was just being honest that it was early days and it was like 10 years ago. And since then, I've been honing it through having to get on stage and sing, you know, with the Cribs and sing alongside people like Eddie Vedder and those. It just eventually you're honing. It's different than it was 10 years ago.
Do you like singing?
Yeah, I really like singing.
Yeah.
I like singing a certain way. I like singing kind of, I'm going to use the word rock and roll, but I like singing punchy kind of new wave music.
Yeah.
I love to say, everybody, you know, who doesn't love Perfect Day by Lou Reed, it's an incredible song to sing. It's not the sort of song I'd want to sing, and I've learned that. I like singing, and there's a song on the album called I Want the Heartbeat, and it's like this sort of manic, kind of fast thing. Favourite thing to sing live. Yeah. Someone's got to sing that. It's
interesting you say that, because we'll talk more about this. The overwhelming, although there are big tunes like we tried, me and Martin, Newtown Velocity and the opening track, which have got this big sweep and a kind of grandiose, in a brilliant way, grandiose, a kind of epic feel that a lot of your stuff has. It's got a kind of punkishness running through it, I think. Yeah.
Well, I knew about a year before I actually made it, I started getting a little bit antsy to up the tempos. I mean, the Cribs are an up-tempo band, but I wanted to write stuff that was all kind of up-tempo, and I had a notion about how I felt that what was in the air in Manchester when I was growing up as a kid. Yeah. And what I did was I didn't overanalyze it. I just kind of went, how did I think that these bands that I used to like operate? And I think I'd like to operate like that.
So tell us some of the bands, because I read that as well. It's sort of a lot of this, where you say, reflects kind of the music you were listening to pre-Smith.
Yeah,
you know?
It wasn't like I wanted to sound like those bands, but I felt a certain way when I was younger.
Things.
Well, it was, you know, I thought, well, I quite like to play a set that has got the energy of when I used to see Magazine and the Only Ones, and that's my rock and roll, you see.
Yeah.
And sort of kind of in a way the bands that I was in, little punk pop bands that I was in before I was in the Smiths, when I was sort of feeling my way around as a guitar player. And a lot of that, I think what's happening in the record is it's half of what I was doing had I not been in the Smiths, and half of everything I've done since I got known. Right. Because the other consideration was that don't overthink it. If something comes out like a song like Generate, which sounds very much like I think I'm supposed to sound, if it feels really good, 2 things. One, if it feels true, and secondly, if fans are going to like it, that's great. Whereas sometimes you have other considerations like how does it, I've already done that. I've already don't do that again. I've wiped so many riffs, and now I've just gone, you know what, drop that. For the time being anyway, drop it. And I think the thing with people that assume with like a solo record usually is an opportunity, shall we say, to do my 11-minute opus with the strings, with the orchestra and a classical guitar. I know that sounds like an amazing thing, fellas.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you should do that anyway.
Well, you did that with the Pet Shop Boys next door.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
I do think you should do that.
But after it's sort of amusing to me really that when I got a chance when I finally did my own record, it sounds like 12 banging pop songs, which is what I really want to do.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
What about writing words after concentrating on music all these years?
Really like it.
Yeah.
Like music, sometimes it's dead inspired, sometimes it's a bit of a puzzle, sometimes it's a craft, and all of that work I really enjoy.
Did you ever chip into the words with Morrissey or with Bernard in electronic?
Very occasionally with Bernard, I started off some songs started off with a few lines that I had. And, I mean, it was something that I started off doing when I was a kid, but then I realised that what I was doing was writing prose that I had then tried to put music to. I was never able to do that. But the last sort of few years, I started to see a pattern in the titles that I had and the concepts that I had for songs. I was just really getting more and more into writing these ideas for songs, and so I like it. Yeah.
Do you start with the music? Does it always start on the guitar?
Yeah, or it starts with I can hear the whole thing in my head, and then I'm just like a basket case trying to sort of translate that, put that onto a phone or something. You know.
Yeah.
But no, I do. I like. I like. I feel like I'm fronting a certain kind of group, even though it's under my own name.
Yeah.
And the group has a certain aesthetic, which I've been sort of working on in my mind for. It's like, okay, I had an idea for what I wanted to do. No one else is going to do it, so I might as well do it.
Yeah. And when you say it's a rock and roll record, that's not an American rock and roll record. It's it's a European rock and roll record, isn't it?
Very European, yeah. That's kind of why I went over to Berlin a few times. It was important, you know, to not get too. I knew I had to come back here to do it, but one of the things about being around great, intelligent American friends that I have is their view of the UK. They know all about our great bands in detail. My friends, obviously, they know all about the clothes, they know about the fashion, they know about the tellies and all of that business. But they do have a wider view of the United Kingdom of being as part of Europe, and that's kind of rubbed off on me over the years. Right. And that how close we are to Berlin, how close we are to Paris. You know, I mean, it's just such a fantastic thing. And then the political considerations about Europe and growing up, the way I was brought up to believe that one of the greatest things about this country was that it opens its doors to people who need it.
Yeah,
I can't change that. I was very, very aware of that when I was a kid because my parents came over from Ireland and everything. And I'm very happy about that. That's who I am, so that's what's gone into my ideas about Europe. And so the song European Me actually started because I had all those notions, and then I just had this line, heroes in an empty station, and I thought that was worth writing a song about.
Yeah. Let's play Upstarts. And so what was the thought that started this one?
I was crossing the idea of, really loved the energy and the way that the students went about their demonstrations a couple of years ago. I was filled with admiration for it, and
the tuition fees.
Yeah. I thought it was done very, very well, and it was noble, and at the same time, I heard a girl on a radio show, a really Mancunian girl, talking about the riot that happened, and I just sort of thought about writing a demonstration song for school children. So it was very important that it was in a major key, and had this sort of playful aspect to it. But I thought, well, what could school kids kind of protest about? So it's a kind of protest song for a school kid.
That's Upstarts by Johnny Marr from his new album, The Messenger, which is coming out on February the 25th. And we're aware that we've only played the two songs that you've already heard on this show, and we talked about others, but we can't play those yet. We're not allowed, so we'll play those.
Is that right?
Yeah. So,
They're embargo.
but we will.
wow.
We will be
But
playing.
as soon as we can, we will
we've
be doing.
whetted your appetites. haven't we?
Yeah.
So,
And then on the road, pretty much through March.
Yeah, and then I'm going to come back and do some more shows that I'm trying to. In May I'm going to be doing some shows that I'm putting together now. I'm going to go to the States for a little bit, only for about 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah, I'll be gigging for quite a long time, I think, and then festivals and all of that.
How do you take it out on the road? Is it you and a little band?
Yeah, just 3 of us. I think last time 4 of us in total.
Yeah.
Last time I was on the show, I was about to go out and do these little warm-up gigs, kicking these songs around, and that was scary, but worked out great because the set was mostly new songs from the album, and it sort of did what I thought it would do. Really, it was like I cut down a couple of verses, sped a couple of things up, and but the song sounded good live.
This album, you can hear it; it will sound great live.
Yes, that was one of the other considerations I had. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the sets. All the songs sound good live. So me and 3 other guys, and off we go.
Excuse me. You touched on this before. Said you had to come back here and make this record.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned earlier something about the feeling in the air in Manchester when you were young and everything.
Yeah.
But you really did mean that. You did sort of you were in Portland, Oregon for a bit, but you did feel that you had to be re-steeped in Manchester. You were even talking about rain on windscreens and windscreen wipers and things. You needed to feel that again to make this record.
Oh no, absolutely did. Yeah. I mean, someone asked me a couple of days ago, well, is that right, or could you have actually done it in America or whatever? And maybe I could have done it. This person said to me, did you really need to come back and do that? But I couldn't risk it. And in fact, I think I did need to come back here and do it.
Was it a reconnection? Because another thought that I was reading, I loved that bit in an interview where you were saying when you quit school and you were walking around Manchester with this great sense of freedom, but confidence that there was a great future in front of you. Were you trying to reconnect with that sort of Johnny Marr in your younger Manchester days?
I was... No, that's two different things there. What it is with that was that that day when I decided to not go back to school, and I walked around the first Wythenshawe, and then I got on the bus with my girlfriend and my mate Andy, and went into town, and it was this. I wrote this song, Newtown Velocity, and I wrote the music. This is the last thing I did on the record, because I felt that the album was banging, and I got a bit paranoid that it needed a little bit of beauty on there. So I started messing around the track listing and taking songs off, and the co-producer was like, you're mad, leave it alone, it's fine as it is. So rather than take something off, I thought, well, I'll add this aspect to it that just instinctively I thought would complete the story of me, really. So I wrote the tune, which came about amazingly. It happened, and then I was trying to conjure up appropriate words, and the tune seemed to have this sense of beauty and evocation of optimism, and I was like, okay, well, I kept coming back to this day. I was thinking, well, you need to write something that evokes that day, which was a summer's morning, when I decided that was it. I was done with it with school, and I went and had a wander around, and so I thought, we'll just write about that. Yeah. So that's because I tend not to write directly autobiographical words. I think there's better things to do, really, better things to write. And so that's what happened on that day. But actually, I've had what happened to me on that day was strong enough for me to be able to absolutely carry with me and remember. And I'd like to think that most of us have had at least a few of those moments in our lives where maybe we haven't, but where you just feel like your destiny is in your own hands. Maybe I was a particularly idealistic person, but I've had a few of those, I'm glad to say, in my life since, and I hope I have some of those moments again. Yeah. And as a songwriter now, I've sort of realised with writing words that if the last box you tick, I kind of hate that phrase, is that I think other people will know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
You get that sense from that. You get that sense from that record. You really get that sense of a kind of, it's not sad, but a kind of sweetness of, it's hard to put into words, but you get that sense of place and of a looking forward and stuff like that in that record.
Yeah, it was a big moment. I suppose transcendence, is a thing, really. But and that's one of the most fabulous things, amazing things about pop music for me, that you can sort of, if you're lucky enough to, first you have to imagine it, but if you're lucky enough to be able to bottle it, you can bottle it and put it onto a 3.5 minute, 4 minute song. It's the greatest. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And are all these, because I've got listened to the album, I haven't got all the details and everything, but are all these solo writes? Are you collaborating with anyone writing, or do you just do it all on your own now?
Well, I do it on my own, but the co-producer Doviak writes some stuff with me or enables me. So some stuff we've written together. But it was just me and him, and we did all the engineering and all the sort of technical side of it, which was quite challenging, singing and writing and doing everything. But I'm glad we did it that way. It's cool. So just me and him, we just lock ourselves in the studio, and then he's very good at saying, pull out your old amps from the 80s and make it sound more like you, because I'm terrible for, like, I leave the guitar. People are seeing that on a solo record. First thing I'm going to do is turn the guitars up really loud.
Right.
I'll mess around on laptops and synths and all of that, and he's like, get your guitar out. I think
they will be wanting to hear you play guitar.
Well, look, we look forward to seeing you out on the road. Have you got some new desert boots for the tour? Or?
You know it.
Yeah, and we'll be playing tracks from it as soon as we can.
Can't wait to play people
Cheers,
Newtown
fellas.
Velocity and all those great songs that we've talked about. The album Messenger, John, is at the 25th of February, and the dates start on March the 10th in Oxford.
Yeah.
The Academy there.